All right, let's talk about Google's brand new flagship model, Gemini 3 Pro. There is a ton of hype out there, but what's the actual reality? We're going to separate the two. Google is making some seriously bold claims. They're positioning Gemini 3 as their smartest, most capable model ever, a direct challenger to the big guns, OpenAI's GPT and Anthropic's Claude. The big idea is that it's not just a tool, but a partner that can learn, plan, and build with you. So the big question is it really the new king of AI? In this explainer, we're going to dig in and see if the performance actually lives up to all that marketing. And we're going to start with a core concept that Google says is a massive, massive leap forward. Okay, so this is the big idea, agentic coding. This isn't just about an AI that responds to you. No, this is an AI that actively plans and executes complex, multi-step tasks across all your different tools, your editor, your terminal, even your web browser. Think about it. Instead of just a chatbot, Google's pitching Gemini 3 as an agent. You could tell it, hey, plan my team's offsite in Austin, and it wouldn't just give you a list of ideas. It would actually go and browse for flights, check everyone's calendars, and book a hotel, all by itself. That's the huge promise of an agentic AI. Okay, so that's the promise. But does it have the raw intelligence to back all that up? Well, if you just look at it on paper, if you look at the standardized tests, the evidence for Gemini's superiority looks absolutely overwhelming. And what's really fascinating when you look at this chart is that in pretty much every single category, Gemini 3 Pro just takes the top spot. Look at humanity's last exam. That's a test of PhD-level reasoning, and it's not just ahead, it's miles ahead. And in those long-horizon agentic tasks, which is exactly that ability to plan and execute we were just talking about, it is once again leading the entire pack. And get this, it scored a perfect 100% on the AIME 2025 mathematics problems, a perfect score. That's something only one other model has ever managed to do. This isn't just a small win. It's a huge statement about its raw, problem-solving horsepower. So, everything we've seen so far seems to point to one thing. Gemini is the clear winner, right? But hold on, because a brand new reliability benchmark from Artificial Analysis tells a very, very different story. And this slide just perfectly illustrates the huge conflict at the heart of Gemini 3 Pro. On one hand, it knows more facts than any of its competitors. It achieved a record-breaking 53% accuracy score on this tough index. But on the other hand, look at that number, an 88% hallucination rate. What that means is, when it gets something wrong, it almost always presents that false information with total, unshakable confidence. It's like having a friend who is an absolute genius, but also a compulsive liar. You just never know when to trust them. And that's the key problem, right? This overconfidence, this tendency to just make something up, to guess, rather than just saying, hey, I don't know. It's incredibly knowledgeable, for sure, but it's not always reliable. And that distinction, as you'll see, is absolutely critical. So what does all this actually mean for the people who are using these tools every single day? Let's dive into a head-to-head for coders. Is all that creative power from Gemini worth the risk of its overconfidence? Well, hands-on reviews from developers are painting this really fascinating picture. Gemini 3 is kind of like a brilliant, but let's say unpredictable senior engineer. It absolutely excels at visual and front-end tasks, especially when it can see what you're talking about. A design, a screenshot, or even just a quick hand-drawn sketch on a napkin. This ability to translate a visual concept, a vibe, into functional, beautiful code is its real standout strength. One developer turned a simple sketch into a working web animation in just an hour. That same task took them a whole weekend with other models. So for that creative, UI-heavy work, it's really in a class of its own. But what happens when the task shifts? When you move from that creative front-end work to complex back-end logic? Well, that's when developers start turning to a different tool, Claude 4.5. Why? Because it tends to ask clarifying questions. It's more likely to admit when it doesn't know something, and that makes it feel way more trustworthy for those mission-critical systems. And this example just highlights the fundamental trade-off perfectly. In one test, Gemini literally hallucinated a bug fix. It said a bug was fixed when it wasn't. Meanwhile, Claude actually helped the developer plan a more dependable, solid solution. So it really comes down to this. Do you need the brilliant creative artist who might just go off script? Or do you need the careful, methodical architect who double-checks everything? So what does this all mean for you? Well, it means the era of looking for a single best AI model, that's over. Choosing the right tool for the right job is now more important than it has ever been. Yeah, so the key takeaway here isn't about finding that one best model that does everything. It's really about building your own personal AI toolkit. It's a simple process, really. First, you define your task. Is it a visual front-end build, or is it a complex back-end logic problem? Second, assess your need for reliability. Can you tolerate some creative but maybe incorrect output, or is getting it right the absolute top priority? And then third, you select your specialist. You use Gemini 3 Pro for that creative UI work and those cool agent-based tasks, and you use Claude 4.5 for dependable planning and back-end logic. You know, Gemini 3 Pro, even with its very real flaws, is pushing us into a whole new era of interaction, this agentic era. It really challenges us to think differently about how we create and build things. Maybe the main limit is no longer our technical skill, but simply our own imagination. What will we ask them to create next?